Hey, this is Nick from the Kendall Connection.
And that just happened!
Well, hey guys, this is Front Row Joe here with That Just Happened. We're very excited today, have the distinct honor and privilege to be chatting with the guys from the Kendall Connection. Thank you so much for your time, guys. Really appreciate it.
No,
hey, thank you.
Hey, thank you for having us on. Great to be here.
Absolutely. Happy to have you. So let's start out with introductions. Can we get your names and maybe introduce yourself and what do you play in the band?
Sure. My name's Nick Kendall, and I'm the lead guitarist and singer in the band.
Tom Clare on drums, Greg Hacker on the bass there, and Steve Holness on keys.
So we've got everybody. Awesome. All right, so the website explains that the Kendall Connection came about roughly about a year ago through working together in the London West End. Can you elaborate more on the genesis?
Yeah, sure. So we were all kind of freelance musicians, you know, before we put the band together, and we work a lot in the West End, and I think out of the four of us, who met first? I think Tom Clare, the drummer, myself, and Steve met on We Will Rock You in the West End. We were stepping, so we were covering for the regular chair holders there.
Years ago now.
Yeah, I mean, that's, yeah, subbing, as I think you call it in the States. So that was, yeah, I mean, that's going back probably 7, 8 years now. Yeah, so that's where we first met, and then I think I met Greg, the bass player, through mutual friends, and Greg was the bassist on the Jersey Boys in the West End. So yeah, and I mean, we sub and def on a load of different shows. We kind of crossed paths over the years on many different things, and Tom and myself worked with various artists in the studio and stuff as well. So not just the West End, but that's kind of where we all first got to know each other.
I think one of the interesting things that you guys have done, and I guess it's the way of the music industry these days for bands that are just starting out. Obviously, you guys are seasoned musicians, but the iteration of the Kendall Connection is new. You have chosen the route of releasing songs digitally versus on the more traditional compilation CD, releasing an EP or a CD. What led to that decision?
Okay, Nick, yeah, I think I'll take this one. So, because we're kind of so busy working, you know, which we're grateful as musicians to be busy working all the time, it's the idea of kind of doing a full-length album in our situation is kind of a mammoth task, getting us all together all the time in the studio and rehearsals and the writing process. So that's one of the reasons we're doing it. You know, we just felt we could get the ball rolling. Nobody knows who we are yet, and I think it's kind of in today's world of social media and all that kind of thing, you know, if we were to work really hard and then put out an album and then go kind of quiet in terms of releases for a couple of years or a year, it might just, you know, we might be busy doing other stuff and not be gigging all that much, and people might forget about it. So it kind of allows us to kind of drip feed stuff and put stuff out on a continual basis and keep people's interest up in the early days. And I mean, I don't think it means we won't ever do a full-length album. It just kind of also just gives us the freedom to release kind of what we want at the time, you know. So we released a single, and then we've released a 3-track sort of mini EP, I suppose. And you know, the idea is maybe we'll do another kind of 2 tracks with videos, and then we might do 6 songs and stick them all on a total release, you know, as a full-length album. So it kind of just gives us the freedom to do what we like. The other side of it is that it allows us to stylistically do what we want. Because we're session musicians, I think we ended up being session musicians because we love loads of different styles of music. And even though the band is grounded in blues rock, you know, if you do a full-length album, you kind of thinking about to fit in with the style of the album, and if it's a concept album, you know, it kind of needs to. This way, we can just kind of do what we want when we want.
That makes a lot of sense. Hearing that explanation makes a lot of sense. So I guess what's the creative process from idea to lyrics, music to the final product?
Okay, well, Nick, I'll start this off because I suppose it does start off with the songwriting, but I'm sure the other guys have stuff to say on this, and I'll pass it over. I put the band together when I already had a few songs, or at least whether they were kind of completely finished or sort of just ideas. And I kind of stumbled across them whilst practicing the guitar. I just come across a cool idea, and that grabs my attention, and then I stop practicing and start writing, really. And either I've had an idea of a lyric or I come across the musical idea, and then I go, oh, well, that will kind of fit what I'm playing, the vibe of it, and then I put them together, or it's just a spontaneous thing, and they kind of come together from something that's in my mind at the time. So that's the kind of songwriting approach. But I'd done a few demos before the band was put together of the stuff, because I knew I wanted to get it together. And what I'm really loving about the band, from my point of view, is it was always trying to find the right guys for the project was always hard. And I think that all three of the guys here heard the stuff just sort of randomly, really. I think we were working on stuff and on other gigs, and we were sort of driving together, and they heard some of the demos. I just went, oh, this is what I'm up to, and they all went, this is right up my street. I really want to be up for playing this stuff, and that's kind of how we ended up together. And I think I'll maybe pass it on in terms of the creative process, because obviously that involves everyone.
Yeah, this is Steve, the key player, and Nick's really good as well, because when he goes through with us for a part to play, he'll have an idea of what he wants, and there might be some specific lines that he wants us to do, or specific voicings or something. But generally, then he'll trust us as musicians ourselves, and he'll say, like, this is what I like, but actually do your own thing as well, and I'll see what I think. And more often than not, it becomes a blend of the two. So there is a freedom for us as well. So it's very much a group effort.
Yeah. So Tom here. Nick came round with the demos, and we started tracking drums, and it was genuinely a very creative process. The ideas were there in the demos, but Nick was, like Steve said, very keen for people to put their own stamp on it. The result kind of speaks for itself, I think. We all hear a bit of ourselves in there, which is great, but it kind of all seems to blend, which is ultimately the aim of the game.
Well, let's talk about the songs. Your the first single that was released was "Staring Back at Me," correct?
Yeah, that's right.
All right. It seems, just based from a listener's perspective, it seems like it's an introspective journey into the many flaws that we have as humans. It talks about regret born from bad decisions and trying to cope with those consequences. What was the inspiration for that song?
It is, yeah, you hit the nail on the head, obviously. I think the song's pretty clear what it's about. It's just kind of about the darker side that we all kind of have in us, I suppose, and it's based on the idea of sort of the perfect life on paper family man, who's got a great job and a house and kids, and it all seems lovely on the outside, but he just has this kind of madness this one night, and it almost gets off the rails, and the song is written really about that kind of, it's almost the morning after, he's kind of still up, in the sunrise, and he's kind of coming down from, what he's been through the night, and he's looking at himself and going, hang on a minute, so he's got a kind of regret of what he's been through, but then he kind of made that decision to go through that, and he's kind of indulged his darker side, and he kind of, so it's the questions around that, and, I think even if you've never kind of indulged that dark side as a person, I think it's definitely there, in human nature and that, and so it's just all about kind of dealing with that as a person, really, yeah.
Certainly. And Heart of the City was one of the next ones you released. But the first thing that popped in my head was kind of like a Rembrandt sound. You know what I'm talking about? The American pop rock band. Yeah. So I got a little bit of that vibe, but then another aspect of the song includes a little bit of country, certainly blues, and even a little folksy flavor, at least to my ears. So much like a large metropolitan city that's kind of a melting pot of different ethnicities and cultures and sights and sounds, was that a conscious effort in writing this song when you're talking about the heart of the city being a mishmash of different musical styles?
It's Nick again, because I wrote that song a few years ago, actually. No, that's really cool to hear. I've never heard that from anyone, so, and really an interesting kind of side to it. I obviously, stylistically, yeah, you bang on the money. And I'm very influenced by country rock and some of the great players over in the States, especially. Yeah. And, but the song actually came about. I was on a London bus on my way back home to my flat in London a few years ago when I was still living in sort of the centre of town, and it was sort of evening, and everyone was kind of on their way home from work, and I was just looking out the window of the bus, and I just had this really great feeling of the city and the life of the city, and you know, having lived in Boston, which is a great city, and then London, and you know, having spent time in New York or whatever. You know, anyone who's lived in any kind of city like that knows that kind of the city itself breathes a life of its own, and just has a real kind of vibe to it, and it's just kind of nothing like it. And I kind of had, while I was sitting there on the bus, the idea Heart of the City popped into my head, and I got home and I sat down with the guitar, and the riff came almost instantly, and honestly the song was written probably within half an hour.
Excellent. And let's keep going. A change is coming. Probably out of all of them, more bluesy than the other ones, with a tinge of Don Henley. Then the guitars kind of morph into a Stevie Ray Vaughan meets Joe Satriani for especially the extended solo right there at the end of the song. Is that type of musical change a nod to the change that is coming? It's great to kind of hear your take on it, because I think, you know, everyone's going to have a different take on it. And when I write the stuff, there's honestly I don't think about anything of what I should or shouldn't write. So like I was saying earlier, I generally stumble across something while I'm practicing or playing, and I go, oh, that's cool. And the vibe kind of takes me somewhere, and it's more, I think that song came about just from in working together on a show for a decade, and the show kind of came to a close. And when you've spent that long together, especially as musicians playing together, you know, it's kind of your home away from home, and it's like a family to you. And it's that point where, you know, it comes to the end of a road, and there's a change in life, and it's that kind of feeling. And, you know, people have it in different walks of life, all the time in life. So yeah, that's what that's about. And the extended solo, I just musically wanted to do it because of the name of the song and what the song is about. A change is coming. So it's a kind of almost monotonous kind of drone which just builds and builds and builds. And, you know, I mean, I'm not saying I think things the way we're doing it, and not being at this point signed, or like the old traditional way of releasing albums. You know, to do a minute, I think the solo is about 2.5 minutes or something. We just keep going and going, but you know, we can do that if we want. I think the result is hopefully something people enjoy, and people seem to enjoy. So yeah, that's that. Yeah, that one. Great stuff for sure. So let's do this. The four of you are a professorial conglomerate. You guys are teaching a class at the School of Rock. So you're rock and roll blues professors, and you're giving out a homework assignment to the young aspiring musicians that are your students. From each of you, for them to learn and to know exactly what rock and roll is, what album would you send them home with?
Tom here. I've already pitched in with Appetite for Destruction.
All right, so that's your pick, Appetite. Got it. All right, awesome.
Steve, the who's next?
I would go for, I would go for Free, one of the albums maybe the collection about the Free story. I think they just like fire.
And I think for me, and this is Nick, by the way, I'm answering this just because it had such a profound effect on me as a muso when I was young, so I suppose, and it's kind of lasted through my playing. It's probably Stevie Ray Vaughan, Couldn't Stand the Weather, because it was the first Stevie Ray Vaughan record I heard, and it's just him playing. It's just, I know the songs in terms of harmony and, you know, modern sort of structural writing, not that incredible, but just for someone as a guitar player playing completely from their guts and soul and not thinking about what they're doing too much, just playing from the heart. Yeah, that's that one.
Excellent. Those are great. Appreciate that. So what's next for the Kendall Connection in the next 6 months?
It's Nick again. So what we're going to do, we're kind of all working. We've pretty much booked up for the end of the year with other stuff and work. But we're during the day when we can, we're going to do. I think we're going to do a couple of videos and probably release tracks as well from those videos.
Yeah, excellent. So let's reach out just a little bit further. What's the vision that you have for the Kendall Connection, say, 3 years down the road?
It's Nick again. I would love to, say, 3 years down the road, be able to put on and realistically speaking, I'd like to put on a UK tour, playing in each of the cities or towns in the UK, in a small sort of venue, but be able to sell those venues out and make it worthwhile to be able to go on tour. It's very hard to take 4 working visas and get everybody out of work to go on tour. There's no money in it, fortunately. So that's definitely where my head's at.
This is Tom. I think on the creative side of things, these first few songs have come, certainly inspiration-wise, exclusively from Nick, because he's the originator of the project. He's brought it all together, brought us all together. So I'm in no doubt that as time goes by and we play more together, that it will become a more collaborative and creative process, which is something I'm certainly really excited about, because the guys in the band, they're not just my friends, they're my peers, they're the guys that I work with, and they're the guys who I love hearing play, every night, when they're subbing on the show that I'm doing or whatever. They're fantastic players, and sort of getting to actually do creative stuff with these guys is something I'm really excited about.
Excellent. Well, the mention of putting some videos out there, how will those be released and what platform? On the website?
It's Nick. The obvious platforms and the social media and YouTube and all that kind of stuff. So, at this point, just from practicality point of view, it's all online. We try and spread it as much as we can in terms of put it out on the website, on Facebook, and YouTube, and wherever else. At this point, everything is online, but I think most things are these days.